the Metal Maniac, and we're just sitting here with the Hannibal brother, and I'd love to share with you a little bit of the Maui Wowie brother right here. Let me give you this is the Metal Maniac, but I used to drive with Superfly, and I'd drive the car, and I'd be rolling the doob and driving the car, holding with my knee, steering the Cadillac, and rolling the big fatty Mac Daddy. And I go like this here, brother. That is the Maui Wowie. As we say down here, the shit that killed Elvis. Wow. Aloha.
This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com. We were having some issues with StreamYard, so it's going to be Skype today with none other than independent wrestling legend who's wrestled all over the world against the likes of Jimmy Snuka. And he was even in Herb Abrams' UWF, the NAWA back in the glory years. Here he is, the Metal Maniac himself.
Wow, brother, it's the Metal Maniac, and you are on Hannibal TV worldwide, brother, daddy, brother. Now, I know that, I was on the last time we had all that different subjects, but you've called me, you've got me on here, brother, and now I want to know what Hannibal wants to know so I can answer what Hannibal wants to know, because Hannibal is the Hannibal, not just Hannibal, the Hannibal.
That is correct, sir. You are absolutely correct. And the last interview people can look up was all about Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, WWE Hall of Famer, who you were very close with. You set the record straight on a few things to do with the Dark Side of the Ring documentary that you wanted to comment on because you knew the other side of Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. One person we never asked you about, though, was his daughter, who's in the WWE, is, I think, Tamina. What are your thoughts on her?
Well, I've only seen a couple of matches because I don't watch anything I'm not booked on. But when I did see what she was doing, I knew exactly she's got it. But I know her. I've only met her in person when she was like, I don't know, 11 or 12, 11. I mean, I don't know how old she is right now, but I remember it was 1992. So however old she was in 92, she was a very, very, very young person when I met her at her house in Utah. So it was a long time ago.
And to get on to
I know all the children.
It's Herb Abrams from the UWF, who I didn't even know you worked for until I saw you commenting on the Rick Bassman video where he did like an hour deep dive into UWF. So how did you get involved with it, and what was your experience like there?
Oh my God. I'm not laughing because the guy's not here with us. I have to hold my head and laugh because he was obviously, I'm not saying anything any different. Everyone knows he was a character beyond characters. He loved the business. He wanted to be in the ring. Obviously, there's nothing I could say up to this point that anyone wouldn't already know from hearing the stories about him and the coke gimmick and the prostitute broads around and the thing he just wanted to be it, instead of going with business. His personality was just like a ball of fire, and even if he had someone, if that guy had someone else who he respected more than himself, he could have done well, but he went in another direction, and none of the people around him were able to really get a hold of him. They did try, from everything that I heard. But here's my Herb Abrams story. Now, before there was the Dudley Boys as we know them today, Devon and the other brother, they were the very last of the group of ECW when it was created, because I was there when they first came up with this idea of even having the Dudley Boys, and it was Big Dick Dudley was the very first one, and then it went on from there. And I knew Dick Dudley for a long time before he was called Dick Dudley, where he was literally doing a Hulk Hogan gimmick without the Hulk, he had a body, but he was not as big. He wasn't as tall. He had the hair, but he had grew the mustache. He did the thing. He had the colors, but he called himself something else. And it was IWCCW and ICW and IWCCW, and then he went to ICW. So and that was the Savoldi's. They were the agents for older Vince Senior. In Allentown's and all those buildings. So all right. So obviously at this point, I'm new in the business, but I haven't taken over Jimmy's bookings just yet, and but obviously Jimmy and I were close since day one, and so the promoters knew that, and so I was moving along, making calls, and this guy, he had an office in Manhattan, and I was stationed about maybe 30 minutes outside the city in Short Hills, New Jersey area, from where I'm originally from, and my family was visiting my family at the time. My mother was still alive, and I came in from Hawaii, and I drove into this city, and I went to this guy's office because I called him and made an appointment. Well, I didn't know what the hell I was getting into, and then here's the reason why I'm going to tie in Big Dick Dudley with the next Dudley they had. He had these big, giant Coke bottle glasses, but he had a muscular body with this bushy hair. I forget the brother's name, but he was a really good guy. For those two guys were such nice people. So, and they were always very kind to me since day one. Kind of like Scott Putski and all them guys. They were all just really nice people. So what happens is I go into the city, right? And I go up to his office. And a lady lets me in, and she said, Mr. Abrams will see you, and I'll be leaving the office. It's the end of the day. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. So the lady walks out of the office door is open. Jeff, come on in. Hey, Maniac, how you doing? Come on in, sit down. And he's just moving around the room. He's doing some stuff. And I don't notice anything odd, other than I knew from his telephone call he was an excitable type, but in a good way. He seemed like he was just in love with wrestling. That's all I got out of it at first. And like I said, it came from the music business, but I was naive to what I was actually looking at first. So I was like kind of naive. So what happens is he's moving around the room, and he's telling me, "Oh, take a look at my view." And I'm out looking at the view. It was beautiful, nice. And I turn around, and there's a pile of cocaine this big. It's just pretty big for a pile of cocaine, right?
Oh yeah, that's got to be several $1,000s worth.
Oh, at least. I mean, holy shit! This has got to be at least what? I mean, it's got to be the size of, I would say, what, a quarter pound of it.
What was 1 gram worth in those days? Like $60,
well,
maybe?
a gram was back then. Back then, weed was cheap and Coke was expensive. It would be 3.5 ounces. You would get for $2.75 for 3.5 grams. 3.5 grams, and then there's 16 grams in so 16 ounces. That's a lot of ounces. And this is a lot of ounces, not grams. Even more grams. I'm saying it's just wow. So he's like, sit down. He said, what, you want something right away? You want something? I said, I can't. I always would lie to people and say I'm allergic to it, because in this way they wouldn't bother you. But when I graduated high school in '81, all my friends were, doing it on the weekends and stuff, and so was I. But it really never made me feel very well, and it just made me feel, I don't know, just didn't make me feel good. it wasn't like smoking a doob, drinking a beer. You'd feel good. That stuff made me feel just odd. Never was my thing. So I
There's
just
a
did not
depression
understand.
that hits some people with it. They actually get depressed off of it, I think.
Yeah, it's a real it's something's with it, something's with it. So and they used to cut it hard with all kinds of different inositol. I just wasn't into it. So I said, I can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go right ahead. Because I have what do you call it? I have allergy. Oh shit! You're missing the best high in the world. And blah blah blah. And so he's snorting and he's telling me what he wants to do. And a little more. And he's playing with it. He's got the rest of it under the side, and he's moving it around. And then and I'm starting to see that, maybe this guy really isn't screwed too tight. But he sounds, my ears are telling me he's right on target, but my eyes are telling me a whole other story. So I want to start laughing because he's acting like one of these ice heads off, you know, how they do that.
Oh yeah.
How they do that. How they do that thing. So he's talking to me, and he goes, then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he puts the big pile back in front of him, and he's like, he's like got these two pencils, and he's like mixing it around. I'm like, what the fuck? I have no idea what the hell he's doing. And then all of a sudden, he goes, oh, I just love this stuff. And he takes two handfuls, and he literally goes, no, on his face. And he looks at me and he's like, this is a rim. And I'm like, oh, all right. Okay. So he's brushing his face off. He's licking his hands. He goes over to his sink and he's talking to me. And he's still on point. But, he's on point. So he says, come on, let's go for lunch. I'm saying, wow, this guy can eat after that. So, all right, we're going to lunch. So I walk downstairs, going to lunch, walk downstairs, go down the elevator. I forget what building. It was really close to Madison Square Garden. So, he's walking, but he's walking fast. I figure, all right, fuck, he's doing the blow. So I hear he's walking fast. So I try to keep up with him, and he's talking to me and he goes left and he goes up these stairs that go like up towards the main promenade to the garden where you'd see Madison Square Garden with the lights. And as he goes up the stairs, like he hops up the stairs and I'm walking up the stairs, and if anybody knows me, they know, listen, I like to burn, I like to hang out. I don't mind. I do my cardio, but I'll run up those 4 stairs and I'm blown up for the day, it's enough. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see Big Dick Dudley intercept him, and I'm walking up slow, and I don't see this yet, but I see this guy with long hair has got his back towards me, and then this other shorter muscle guy, and they got him, and I'm like walking up, and they both looked at me, and they went like this. They just went like this. Hang on, brother. Just hang on over there. And I said, oh, okay. So I just hung out, turned my back, and waited for them to leave him alone. But it turns out that I guess he must have owed them some money from wrestling and things like that, or the gimmick, for all I know. I never really ever found out because I don't ask questions like that. And then for the rest of the afternoon, I spent another hour with him eating, and his face was like, and it was like his whole excitement was like, he must have pissed himself because it looked like those two were going to beat the crap out of him, and they had walkie-talkies, so they knew where he was going to come out of. They could see, they'd tell each other, and they ran up on him, and they had him. Now, whether or not they were going to do anything to him, I have no idea. These guys, I think they're both dead. I know Dick Dudley for sure had passed away. I was at his funeral out in Long Island. But good guy. And like I said, Herb, he wasn't a bad guy. He just was insatiable. He was absolutely insatiable. Now, some people knew him before he had gone off the rocker. But the only word I can possibly say to you is after witnessing him and seeing how if those two guys were willing to find him and these guys were wrestlers and went to that much trouble to find him, he may have been very well involved in other things that maybe he just said, just party himself to death or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, all the money that they were talking about. But you know me, I get pissed off when I watch TV shows that already out the gate have a slant. I'd rather it come out and be down the middle and say, hey, I met the guy. He was a nice guy. He was a little crazy, but he was a good crazy. And then to hear, listen, this guy took the stuff and smushed it on his face. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear it down the middle, and I get to make my decision as to who he was. But for certain, all those things that were said, these were things that were common knowledge that weren't hidden. You know what I'm saying? They were like out in the open. There was no keeping a secret. He wasn't keeping any secret. So, if you wanted to come out of the gate saying, listen, we're going to talk about this wild, crazy, party, phenomenal, crazy nutcase who loved wrestling, that would exactly be what you could say, and that could be the headline, because that's who he was. I mean, it wasn't like he was, somebody else when the light was off. He was like that all the time. Like Shicky Baby. Shicky Baby is Shicky Baby all the time, every day, all day. He just is. So that's how, but Shicky Baby was nothing like, even though he was a party man, he wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? He could party, but he could keep himself together. This. Yeah, so poor Herb Abrams, he passed away. People had contacted me about it, but they were so interested in speaking to all these other famous guys. They really weren't interested in anything I had to say, because if they did, they would have called me. I mean, look at the guys from the TV show about Jimmy. They came all the way to Hawaii to see Don, but they didn't come see me. And it's impossible not to know my connection, because I was in his book. And if you're going to come and talk about a subject, that book would be a cornerstone of what your prep would be to come and visit somebody unless they're completely stupid, which I don't think they are. They knew exactly, but I don't know why they didn't ask me. But I'm glad you're asking me about her, because yeah, he was nuts, but he loved the business, You know what I'm saying? He wasn't like he tried to hurt someone else. It was self-destructive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like he tried to hurt somebody else or take people's millions and lie to them, like some, shysters. He shysted himself. I mean, he just partied himself into smithereens, but he loved wrestling. He loved it. I mean, and look at Tony Capone. He's come a long way from being out of the business for a long time. His health wasn't very good. He came back, and here he is, and he's coming back into the business where guys are wrestling for free. Guys are wrestling for free. I mean, it's just, they say it's self-promotion.
Well,
Really?
he's
Okay.
also not there anymore on independent shows. It's really hard to draw crowds these days. So that's the other difference. When you were doing it, the crowds were a lot bigger.
Yes, that's true. I just wish that, well, now they could use people who want to do it to help the company stay alive. And then I could see helping people out. But this is in 2017, when I came in for my one last run, 2017 and January 2018 to the end, almost 2018, that year and 18 months, there were kids, they were all going to like Ohio and all these different places, and they were going to shows with 200 people on them. I mean, if you said to me, you're going to go to WrestleMania and you're going to be on TV, and they offered you a spot on WrestleMania to be seen by, a billion people, all right, I could see maybe that is self-promotion. So then this way you can command $1 and put some asses in seats so the promoters can pay you. But now I see what you're talking about. Yeah, well, it's helpful to have those kinds of people who are willing to help you. But, that's
Get
a
what you pay
no-brainer. I mean,
for,
it's
though.
just good for their business. What's that?
You get what you pay for with a lot of the free wrestlers if you use them. I
That's true.
mean,
But I will say, in the Northeast, I mean, there are guys, Matthias Glass, Kenny Bengal, the other kid, what's his name? I guess I said that before. He's a 7-footer, can do anything that the Undertaker can do. The Meadowlands Monster. There's another. What's that other guy's name? Sonny Kiss used to be a New York Jets. Cheerleader. This kid, you know, and I think he may be in Ring of Honor. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I've seen him work with Colossus. This guy's like 6'6", probably about. I heard he lost weight. He's like 385, but when I seen him, he was over 500 pounds, and he could move. This guy could move, fly over the top rope backwards, and really move. And I seen him work together with this kid, Sonny Kiss. I was like, wow. I was impressed with what they could do. But, you know, a guy that could do these kinds of things should get $100 to work. But,
yeah. Well, he's in
it is what it is.
AEW now. He's in AEW now, Sonny Kiss. So
Yeah,
he's
well, he
making money now.
deserves it. But he deserves it. But there's guys like, I mean, Dan the Man, shit, he should be there. And so should Corey Dillinger, and so should Kenny Bengal. These are guys from the Northeast. If you look up, I mean, you know, I'm not promoting them in any way other than to say mention their names as a part of a set of guys who are actually valuable. You know, like Matthias Glass, he does this Jewish Russian gimmick where he's got this giant head thing and he throws the hat at people, it knocks them down, but he's the only one that can pick it up. Good get these are all excellent, talented people, but you know, they're not getting the chances. You know, they're not getting the chances. I mean, out of this whole group of guys, Sunday's the only one they took. That's so stupid because there's guys who can really go. And those guys I just talked about, holy crap, these guys can work. They should be with Vince on his main TVs. I mean, main TVs, not NXT's, main. And even now, it's just a mess. When this thing is over, brother, this is going to go. I wish that, you know what? I wish I had this kind of money. Because you know what I would do? If I was Fox, I'd buy everything. I'd get rid of all the shareholders, buy everything, shut it all down, and put up all those 80s films and reteach everybody, get everybody happy and hope, like, you know, like during 9/11. And when it's over, you know, you can't bring out the Road Warriors because they're gone. But you can bring out guys who, you know, went back and saw these things and started to implement those psychological things into their matches, and then re-educate the populations of what they should be looking at. You know, yeah, you're going to lose that 1% of ECW people, but other than that, people are going to love what you put on the plate. I mean, you've ran shows, you know, you don't have to put out, as long as you have a good, hard-working psychological match. It doesn't matter if they're doing high spy after high spy if it's psychological, or if they do like me, a more slower 70s style version of psychological. You can make them come up. You know, you like you said, who's going to tell you more about running shows? You know about psychology, what it is. So, yeah, brother, man, I can't believe it though. Can you imagine? He takes all this plate of coke and he goes, and it looks like a snowman.
Yeah, I've had a lot of dealings in my bouncing years with people screwed up on that stuff.
Unbelievable. They said that in 1981, they said it's not addictive, but they said that the marijuana was.
Yeah.
Then I
Well,
saw guys lose
marijuana,
homes and wives and houses.
people are going to get in a lot less trouble smoking weed than doing lines of
I
coke.
never saw anybody rob a bank for a bag of smoke.
Right. Now, were you backstage when Rick Bassman had his altercation with Paul Orndorff by any chance that he told in that clip?
No, I wasn't. But I will tell you a story where I was backstage on 1996 WWE Hall of Fame weekend. Jimmy was being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Mark Henry had just come in, and right off the bat, he hurt his ankle. And he wasn't the ball of fire that he is today. He was just sweet, nice. I'm sure he is sweet, nice in real life. But in the back room, he was just so sweet, so nice. And he was sitting down. He loved Jimmy. And, you had Chris Candido was working, Shawn Michaels was there, and Tammy was there, Tammy Fitch, and so we're in the back, and we're hanging out, and Mark Henry's sitting down, and I'm just chatting with him. He doesn't know me, I don't know him, but I know who he was, but I don't know him. And he said, "Oh, you're friends with Jimmy?" "Oh, I love Jimmy." We're just talking back and forth, and there's a door right next to us, and this, I guess, was Tammy and Chris's what do you call it? Room there. And so we're in the hall, and Jimmy's there, and Iron Sheik is there. So we're all just standing around, and brother Henry was sitting down, with his crutch. We were just talking, and he was nice, like I said. So I see Chris go out to the ring. So we're hanging out, I'm not watching any of the matches on the inside any rooms they had the closed circuit. I was just hanging out in the hallway with Jimmy, and Jimmy's in this 6-man tag where he takes this huge chair shot from Kane before Kane was Kane, and we're just hanging in the back, and all of a sudden I see Shawn Michaels go into Tammy's room there, So, and then I see Chris coming. I'm like, "Oh, this ain't good." And Shawn Michaels comes out of the room. And it was like, by the time Chris got to the doorway, Shawn Michaels took one step out, and the next step, they were nose to nose. And as Shawn passes him, he taps him on the shoulder and he says, "Your turn." And me, Mark Henry, Iron Sheik, Jimmy Snuka, we all looked at each other like, and Jimmy's like, "Wow." And that's all that was said. No, not a peep. All I heard was, "Wow." Holy crap. Holy crap. And poor Chris. Poor Chris was such a good guy, man. Man, that guy was a good guy. Did you ever have the pleasure of meeting him or seeing him work out
Well,
in
I've seen him
real life?
wrestle, but I never met him, no.
What a good guy, man. What a
Did you
good
think he
guy.
liked that though? Because some people obviously like it when their girls have sex with other guys. They just get off on that. I heard Jim Cornette's like that.
I guess. I mean, I, I look. I never went to Chris's house, but anytime I ever saw Chris, man, we would always just be like just peanut butter and jelly in the locker room. And I don't know what his sexual preferences were. Maybe that's true. I don't know, but I, for me, that ain't my bag. So I would be like, my turn. Boom, and then another boom, boom, just for the hell of it, and then maybe a knee and a foot for someone's stump, just to ring the bell. But it's not my gimmick. If that's your gimmick, well, enjoy. I couldn't handle that in front
No,
of the boys, in front of anybody, no less in front of the boys. Oh, but he didn't even say, or he didn't even blink an eye. So maybe you're right. Maybe
maybe Sean enjoyed sharing a pussy as well. Some people are like that. Now you keep talking.
Yeah,
For the Iron Sheik, you must have some Iron Sheik stories. He's always a popular subject.
brother. Seriously, man, you have no idea, man. I could do a whole 4 hours just on the Iron Sheik. I could do 4 hours. I could do 10 hours on Jimmy Snuka. I could do 4 hours on Sheiky, baby. You know Hulk Hogan, that motherfucker. I can't believe it. I hope you don't have to beat me out because, first of all, you know, like I said, Sheiky is chic all day, every day. And actually, it's nice to see him like that when, just as long as he's not partying. Because when he's partying, it becomes like, I don't know, something happens. But forget that. He's just, so, I mean, look, I just get into business like I told you. And Jimmy says, I got to help you, right? He puts me on the phone with Savoldi. I'm on 5 shows. But Jimmy was running his own shows at the time out in the West Side, West Coast, but not all the way out, like in, the states, like those states like Montana, Arizona, Utah, places like that. His own show. So I had frequent flyers from from the music business. So Jimmy said, "Hey, brother, man, I got these 5 shows, man. You can work with me, out in Montana and Arizona and all these places, So, why don't you come out? But can you fly yourself in? You could stay at my house." That's where I first met Serona, to Tamina, Jimmy's, a middle daughter. Um, so I said, "Sure, I go out there." He said, "Okay, listen, what I need you to do is get the van and I need you to pick up Sheiky from the airport. I'm going to be coming in from another flight a little later. And then the 3 of us will go across to Reno, Nevada." It was one show in Reno. So we had to go across the desert from Salt Lake City to Reno. Okay, so I'm waiting there like a good soldier, told what to do. I'm not dressed like this. I'm just hanging out. So she comes off the airplane. I said, "Iron Sheik, my name's Jeff, the Metal Maniac. I came to pick you up." And Jimmy said we should go to this one place in here, sit down and have something to eat and wait for him to come. And the 3 of us will go to the show. And he says, "Okay, baby, no problem." And he's standing there, and still Sheiky had good legs yet. And he's walking, and he's still got. And at the time, he was, before 9/11, so he was wearing his boots. And everybody knew who he was. It wasn't like they were worried about him, But he went to the machine. He was cleared. He didn't have to take off his boots, And so he gets on the, he's going, and he's twisting his gimmick, mustache, and he always, right. So, as he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Originally New Jersey." He said, "Oh, the country of New Jersey, good wrestling state, brother. Good wrestling state." And I said, "Yeah, but I've been living in Hawaii for the last 2 years, And Steve Aoki brought me into the business, and I've met Don Morocco, and I spent a little time with King Curtis." "Oh, you don't know Don Morocco?" I said, "Yeah, And he says, "You know King Curtis?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, you must have good medicine, baby." And I said, and at first, I'm like, I had to double check what he was talking about, because I didn't know any of the words yet. I didn't know any of the words. So I said, "What do you mean medicine?" He said, "What do you mean? You know these two? And you asking me what kind of medicine?" I said, "Well, I don't know what you mean, Chief." He said, "You don't know, Bubba, the Pakalolo, which is, the marijuana. Pakalolo, that's a Hawaiian word. Pakalolo. So Paka meaning the green, and the Lolo meaning the crazy green." So I said, "Do you know about Pakalolo, Bub? Arshik?" I said, "You know about Pakalolo?" He goes, "I was on News of the World, brother. I was in the New York papers. Arshik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, cocaine, and the marijuana. What do you mean?" I said, "But he said, "But we don't call it the smoke or the marijuana." He said, "We call it the medicine, bro." I said, "Well, I got the shit that killed Elvis," which was just some funny shit I would say. And he said, "You have shit that killed Elvis? Must be good shit. Elvis always had good shit." And so we're in the airport. He goes, "Come on, Bubba, I show you where to go." So he takes me out to like this promenade where you could hang out and have cigarettes, because they weren't really busting balls about cigarettes. It was just a place to go and smoke. At that time, they didn't have cigarette rooms, and you could get away with a couple of hits real quick and a cigarette and go back in. And that's what we did. So, so we get in the van. Jimmy comes in. We get in the van, and I'm sitting on a bucket between, and there's a ring in the back. I was sitting on this bucket it's a long drive. It's like 5 hours sitting on a bucket, but I don't care. I'm with my hero, and I'm with the Iron Sheik, who's a part of the whole crew, with the Hulk Hogan deal at WrestleMania 1, and he's the guy who beat Backlund. And I was a mark, which I'm still a mark. We're all a marks at one point or another anyway. So, I'm a mark for him too. And it's just like he was in that like I said, that group of people that were in the WWE, WWF cartoons. Now, you may remember that because you were
Yeah,
very young at the time.
wrestling
So the
cartoons.
cartoons, right? Yeah, the Saturday morning cartoons. So, I was like, wow, So I'm driving, and Jimmy's doing 100 miles an hour for 5 hours straight. And this is a lot of stress on your body because when you're moving at 100 miles an hour, I'm watching the speedometer, and you're in a van, and I could feel every bump, and every bump wasn't a bump; it was a rat going across these little white rats that would run across the desert. So we're going and smoking. Then they tell me pull over. They're going to change. You drive for a little while. So okay, so now I'm driving. I'm an excellent driver. I was driving limos in the city with famous people, and I took security driving courses, so I could fucking drive. So they told me, look, you're gonna have to go 100 miles an hour. So I was doing what I was told. I'm driving 100 miles an hour, and he said, put your hand down, Bubba. So I look over, and I figured he's gonna give me coke, and if he's gonna give me coke, I was gonna say I can't because I'm allergic, but he didn't. He said it was just brown stuff, you know. So he goes, "Go ahead, just give it up." So I put it up to my face. I don't ask questions, okay? I go, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, and I'm driving at 100 miles an hour with one eye closed. And I'm going, oh shit, what the hell was that? And he's like, oh, you'd never tried snuff. Snuff, it's like chewing tobacco, but you snort it up your nose like the cowboys used to do.
Yeah.
That was their drug of getting high. Was oh, I'm like, no, I never tasted that. Oh man! And then for
That's
like
a good
seriously, a good
sound question.
15 minutes, my right eye was closed and watering as I was driving 100 miles an hour like this. Oh my god! I mean, just so. All right, so here's another funny story. All right, this is really funny. At the time, it was not funny for me after, and I thought it was funny, and that was a mistake. And it wasn't funny for Sheik. Him and I have talked about it, and we've laughed since about it. But at that time, we're in a store. Jimmy is at the hotel. We go to a supermarket. Now, you imagine the Iron Sheik walking through a supermarket. All right, he's going to get noticed, right? And he's hot off the TV, so people know who he is. But this was like in the early morning, afternoonish, so it didn't like it wasn't like it was packed at 4 o'clock. So when I was on the road, I couldn't eat like I was bodybuilding eating. I had to do the best I could with what I had. I was like at the time I was like 228 in fantastic shape. I looked like I was 245, and I was just pretty reasonably jacked up. I was gassed up. So I'm trying to do what I can. And I guess the day before they had me eat something. I don't know what it was, but I wasn't going to say no. They were eating it. I was going to eat it. Jimmy Snuka could eat a bucket of chicken every day and have abs. He's just genetically gifted. So So I'm eating whatever the hell they're eating the day before, and I got gas, and I mean, I got gas bad. And I had to bend down what I was finished with. I went into the number 3. There was no other lights on, so I go into number 3. Oh, I'm sorry. There was 3, which was one item or 5 items, and then there was 2 other ones just down from it. The lights were on, where you could do 10 items or more. But I didn't look. I just had 1 item, so I walked through. And when I was through, the lady was kind of done, almost done, and I had bent over to grab something I had dropped. And brother, man, the worst, the most violent, the most violent, the most violent, the most horrid, like I'm talking like horrid. I mean, fart that ever was known to mankind. So I'm embarrassed, but I get the fuck out of there, because I don't want to be the one that laid the golden egg.
Oh, there was no sound to it.
What was?
Like it didn't make a sound when you farted.
No, it was silent but vicious and deadly. It would reach up and just and choke you. All right. So I figured, all right, nobody's gonna know. So I'm outside and I'm laughing to myself, saying, "Oh my God, if somebody walks through this vicious cloud, it's gonna drop them." All of a sudden, I see the lady stepping back to the counter as I'm walking out, and Shiki comes in. And I'm outside, and at that very moment, I could not keep myself from laughing. I tried, and I tried. And I couldn't stop, and I'm banging myself all over the window. I'm laughing my ass off outside the door. I can't stop. And he's standing there, and he looks up, and he's like, and he sees me, and he's like, he wants to fucking kill me. And he's holding his breath. I could see he went. So what he had to do, he finishes up and he just grabs his gimmick and just goes, because he's moving fast now. He comes out the door and I'm laughing. Oh, I couldn't stop laughing. And the more madder he got, the more I was laughing. But I couldn't stop. I was like, I'm telling him, I'm sorry. I can't stop laughing. I'm saying I'm sorry, and I'm laughing as hard as I could, and I was holding on to him. The more I held on to him, the more he was getting hot. He was getting hot. So, brother, when we made this trip across the thing, before he forgave me, he let it all out of the bag. What happened? And Jimmy's looking in the rearview mirror, like, "Oh man, what did you do?" Yeah. Holy shit! Shiki was so hot, so pissed off. But once he heard me do my interview to promote the show, he said, "Okay, Baba, I completely forgive you. I see why the King Curtis liked you, because you talk good, very good. Okay." And then that was it. But if you could imagine me just in the business, and I can't stop cracking up because he's walked in to this wall of Mace Maniac or Maniac Mace. Holy shit. I'm driving with him one day. And I know it's in my hometown. And we stopped at this Italian restaurant, and they just loved when I would bring in the guys. And they'd get an autographed picture for their restaurant and everything. And, I know there's a blind spot from this building where cops sit. They sit like a little ways back. So I didn't want him to get caught with a joint in his mouth or a beer in his hand, because he had both. So, I said, "Shiki, be careful that corner. The cops usually sit back." "What do you mean, Baba? You think policeman Jesus Christ can see through brick wall? Don't worry about it, Baba. I've been world the news. The heck, sir." And he just lifted his beer up front. I'm like, oh, as we're driving by, I'm like, "Oh God, please don't let there be a cop there." he stayed at my house a couple of times when we were passing through. We were on the same shows. Stayed at my house and instead of the hotel, saved money on the hotel. And then the other one I'll tell you is a quickie. There's many, but I'll tell you a quickie. Okay, so Tommy Fierro, good kid. I know him since he's 16 years old. He was doing autograph, big autograph weekends, conventions at 16. And I was relatively young in the business. About maybe I was in 3-4 years, and he was 16 years old. And believe it or not, he had a Rolodex with everyone's phone number in it, from Elizabeth Taylor to you name it. I mean, he had every famous person. He had everything. I don't know how he got it, who gifted it to him, or if he could. I have no idea. None. But he had them, and they were legit. So he asked me, can I get Jimmy? I said, well, Jimmy's not here this particular weekend because he's booked somewhere else. But this is when I first took it over. He said, well, when's the next one? And so he worked another one around that time. So he let me come on the first one. And then so Bill 80 was there, all these famous guys, and I was just breaking in. Just the same thing, same year as John Arizzi's, first autograph show. So whatever they call it, convention. So Tommy Fierro, this is after Tommy Fierro. Oh, wait. Quick back stuff. Story. Me, Tommy Fierro, and Iron Sheik and Jimmy were on a show. Tommy's there. I dragged Tommy along with me because he lets me be on this thing. But this is after. So wait. So Tommy, I take him into this bar. We get him all drunk. He's 16 years old. I was just after I did the first thing with him, and it was his birthday. I brought Jimmy to his house, and we hung out. It was a pool party. Jimmy said, come on. It's during the day. I want to go swimming. Let's go. We'll go eat, freak people out. Jimmy was cool with that. So we go over. He's real nice. He books us both on this thing. So now, after that is over, and Shiki's there, there's the three of us and Tommy. So we're going to go into this bar. Well, the bar turns out later, as Tommy grows older, to be his drinking spot because it's right by his house. So he tells us about this place called Pub 46. So we go in, and I put Tommy in front of me. I'm in the back. And then there's Sheik and Jimmy. So Jimmy walks in the door. The bouncers are looking. And then Sheik, and I push Tommy through, and I pull up the rear, right? I pull up the rear, and they don't say nothing to Tommy. He looks young, but they're looking at them guys. He's with us, must be old enough. This is at a time where they weren't worried about every single person. They'd let you in. So there's Tommy, gets all drunk, hanging up, but we literally had to stand him against the wall. He's all bombed. So later on, Tommy is older now, and Shiki said that he's been having some problems sleeping. And he said, Sheik, I have problems like that too, he said, somebody give Shiki something to help him sleep, So I guess one of the other guys, I don't even know who that guy was, gave him these 2 pills. I don't know what they are. I found out later what they gave him were these Xanaxes that were like this long. That's like, if you had the pink ones, that's like taking 4 pinks or 2 blues. And he took the equivalent of 4 blues. 4 blues. That's the equivalent of 8 pinks. All right, 16 little white ones.
What does Xanax do anyway? Sorry, for someone that's never had it.
It's like Valium, but it hits fast and it goes away fast. Valium, if you take it, it's going to take about 2 hours to actually get into your system, help your system, and you'll sleep as well if you have back spasms or what have you. But it's a much more longer lasting medication. But we're having lunch, and so I figured, okay, he took these 2 tabs. Well, I don't know what the hell these 2 tabs are. Well, I found out because Shiki was literally sitting up. We're holding him up, sitting him up, and he was drooling in the restaurant. bruh, we had to like, it was a bunch of guys, and when it was all over with, they all surrounded everybody, so not a lot of people could see, and we just kind of he took his arms, put him over guys' arms, necks, and we got him to the door and put him inside the SUV that I was driving, and I took him back to the hotel, and he's supposed to work the next day, so now I got to watch him, right? So I fireman's carry him into the room, and I lay him down on the bed, but I immediately put him into the position where he's like this on his side, and I got pillows, and I leaned him so, God forbid, he was to vomit while he was asleep, he would die. And he'd roll over onto his stomach. So I put him in that position, and brother, seriously, I did not sleep all night. I watched him, made sure he was breathing, made sure he didn't throw up, and finally in the morning time, like the next day at like 10 o'clock in the afternoon, he must have slept 15, 16 hours, 17 hours, and he wakes up and he's sitting up, and he opens up his zipper bag, and he's putting some rocks inside the pipe, and he's lighting up the pipe, which I don't know what this shit is either at this point.
Jesus Christ.
And,
What was
and
it?
he's like, he lights up the. I don't know. I think it was not. I don't think it was what they called meth. It was called back in my day. You would have called it not crack. You would have called it freebasing.
Okay.
Where they take, so that was freebasing cocaine, where they got rid of the cut with water and a spoon and lit it up, and they took the little granules and put it in the pipe. That's what is called crack. So he was using that like a cup of coffee to wake up. So he makes a comeback, kicks out, makes a comeback. Now he's like completely fine, and he says, "Bubba, I remember eating soup and being here now." He said, "How did I get here?" I said, "We put you in the truck. All the boys carried you to the door, put you in the truck. I came here by myself. I opened the door. I put a chair in front of the door, and I fireman's carry you to bed, and I lay you out so you don't choke. And I watched you sitting here all night." I called the pizza place, and I didn't even eat pizza. I called the pizza place. I could stay up with Pepsi and watch him the whole night. And I told him I did. He was like, "Thank you, Bubba. I appreciate it very much, Bubba. Very much." Oh, you had to be prepared. You had to really be prepared to be around Sheik, you know what I mean? But very knowledgeable, very very cool. Oh, and one last.
One thing I'll just say
last.
before you tell that story is it's amazing to me that he's still alive and Volkov is dead, who was clean.
It's the Al Bundy deal, he tries to work out, and people try to work out, and they get sicker, and he just sits there eating bonbons, and everybody's sick except for him, He doesn't get sick because he's used to all the toxins in his body. So yeah, I get it. So I'm on this trip, and it was to Beirut, Lebanon, right where it was 7 years after the Christian-Muslim War. And I'm in Western, not the Eastern. Western side was where the Christians were, and I'm on the Muslim side, the Eastern side. And you couldn't fly directly into there. You had to go to Amman, Jordan, fly to Damascus, Syria, and then from Syria you'd fly into Lebanon, and the Syrian government controlled Lebanon at that time. And I could tell that's a whole nother. My overseas trips are a whole nother video. But this particular one, Barry Darso, the Iceman, Parsons, Abdul the Butcher, Sheik, Nikolai, the Warlord, Jimmy, the Birdman, Coco Beware, What else? Who else was there? That's enough. So we fly into Lebanon, and when the Israeli planes, when they would see that certain areas were getting built up too fast, that were military, they'd bomb that shit. You know, and there were buildings that were still like high rises when it was the pearl of the Mediterranean, and there was bullet. First of all, every building you went into had bullet marks all over it yet, and there were buildings still standing with giant holes in the walls from bombs going in. It was a mess, but they were cleaning it up. And the English government was in there helping with their infrastructure, their water, their electricity. One half of the street would be electricity at 12 hours. The other half would be 12 hours. That's how they kind of worked it. There was wires going across the street. It was real, wow. So we're there, and they say the Israeli planes fly over. Well, we didn't see any because they usually come at night, right? So all the boys are on the beach where we're staying at this hotel. First of all, we're at a nice hotel. We ended up getting put to another hotel, which is like a part of, like I said, all another video of overseas unbelievable shit that happened to me. But this is the sheet. And Jimmy's the same way. The two of them were like two peas in a pod. We're all hanging out on the beach, and we hear this plane fly over. We're in the darkness. We're pitch dark, right? And there was UN guys that were there that heard Jimmy was there, so they wanted to protect the guys. But more importantly, the Fijian guys were there protecting Jimmy because he was a resident alien here, but still a citizen of Fiji. So they wanted to make sure that people didn't think that they could steal him and hold him for ransom. So they were protecting. That's a part of the other story, but they're there. Okay, so we're all hanging out, and the UN guys got Uzis, they got AK-47s, they got everything. Tanks, they got everything. Helicopters. So we're all there, and all of a sudden we hear this airplane real low. I mean, like, you can't see it, but you hear it. And then we're looking maybe 500 yards away from us, up the beach, and we see streamer fire. Well, everybody gets up and starts running. And I'm running with the boys. And we're running towards the building, right? And I look back with Barry Darso and freaking the warlord, and we look back, and there's Jimmy and Iron Sheik. They never got out of their chairs. They never moved. And a lot of guys kind of like stopped. Some guys kept going. So now I creep back real quietly as this is going on. And I go, brothers, man, come on, let's go. And they go, where are you going? They're not firing at us. Just watch. And all the boys are looking at each other. Oh, they're crazy. I'm going inside. Everybody went inside except for me. I think what do you call it? Came out. What's his name? Iceman Parsons came back out. But everybody else went, I think, pretty much back inside. They didn't want to hang outside. And I figured if those two were there, I gotta stay. Otherwise, I'm going to hear it. Because I spent a lot of time with them guys, so I better just stick around and not move. So I just sat on the sand, my legs crossed in between the two of them, just in case anything happened. I was using their shield, their shield, because I was shitting my pants sitting there. Oh my goodness, brother, man. And then we didn't get paid for that trip. That was Abe Awad and his two sons. Like, it was like Saddam and his two sons, those three morons. They go to screw us, and so Shiki goes down to the Iranian council with Nikolai, and they say, Shiki, we can't help you. You're an American citizen now, but we send the Syrian police to check out this guy. And sure enough, the Syrian police came and took the promoter away with his two sons. Well, I guess they let the two sons go, and they were calling around to everyone once they're in the States to help get help get the father out. So Shiki said, do not give them the okay, because they wanted us to okay it, that we got paid and let them out, and then they were going to pay us. I go, no, you pay us and we'll give you a letter. Otherwise, no money, no letter. Let him stay there. I think Barry Darsow broke down, and I think the warlord broke down because they felt bad for the guy. He's in another country and he's in jail, and they signed a letter, but no money ever came. I know it. I just know it. I know it. I mean, I don't care if they say they got it. They didn't get it. I'm sure of it. And if they got it, well, God bless them, but I don't think they got it because there's no way. I mean, when you're in another country, you understand what it's like to be outside the United States. Although Canada, it does have, things that we have. So, but you go over to Europe, I mean, it's a completely different story. Just to plug in, it's a 220.
Oh,
You need
yeah.
the adapter. So
To
it's
use
just, it's
the
another
bathroom,
world.
you got to pay to use public bathrooms in some goddamn places, which is bullshit.
Nah, they think Americans are all rich because we're from America.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, like you said, though, I can tell you overseas stories that were either scary or funny and scary, but mostly scary because you cannot advertise. Like I was saying, you cannot advertise in another country without knowing that the television is a military installation. You can't go on there and say today, our government did this. Oh no, they'll just shoot you in the head right on TV. Put someone new there. They'll do it soon right on live TV because they're not hiding it. It's a military installation. So when the promoter couldn't draw because he wasn't allowed to advertise it, you didn't draw, and we were still looking for our money. And what are you going to do? Sue somebody over there and get one of their lawyers? It's a waste. So if you're going to go overseas, you make sure you get all your money before you leave, and if not, don't go at all. And that's the end of that. So if anybody hears about wrestling overseas, get all of your money. They can put the money in the World Bank, and they can open an escrow account. You get there, it's released to your bank here in the States. It's no problem. But I mean, if somebody wanted to book me overseas, I'm getting a deposit. And Jimmy used to do a deposit, and when you get there, you would get the other half. Well, we stopped doing that once we got there, didn't get the other half, and had to fight for it, and finally said, "Screw this, we're out of here, let's go." So, you know.
As far as your limo driving celebrities in New York, who are some of the celebrities you drove around?
Oh my God. So this is what happened. My family owned a recording studio where Kool and the Gang did all their records. So I was around famous people. So I mean, when I was little, I'm talking like I'm 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 years old. I used to go to the recording studio. It was the side of a mountain. It was called House of Music in West Orange, New Jersey. They did Weekend in L.A., which was a George Benson album. They did the album for Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. These are big productions. So, but Aretha Franklin, what's her name? What's her name? She died from the drugs. She took pills and was sleeping. What's his name's wife? Bobby Brown's wife.
Whitney Houston.
Yeah, her mother was a famous backup singer. Diane Warwick. All these famous, R&B people, Kool and the Gang, like I said. So I was around famous people, so it didn't strike me. The David Letterman band, all those guys were professional union single, double, triple scale musicians, triple scale. So if you wanted, let's say if you had like when Tommy Shaw was leaving Styx during the Roboto tour, he did his own thing called Girls with Guns. That record was done there. Met him, was driving him around, but he had a guy you probably never heard before, but is one of the brains of the business musically, John Tropez. he came in. He could write guitar, bass, can write drums for a drummer. So these professional musicians like Anton Fig and Will Lee and all Letterman's guys, they come in. They stand in a spot and they're surrounded by a musical stand, and they actually sight read. They don't practice. They don't rehearse. They just walk in. They all stand in their spot and they sight read. They just walk around, or they have the chair on a swivel, and they just read the whole part as it's written perfectly, like it was written. I mean, so Tommy Shaw is learned by ear. He can't write music. So he's writing songs, and they're like, listen, don't worry. You don't need a band. We're going to bring in all these studio guys, and this guy's going to write it all. So I was there, fortunate enough to see these kinds of things. So I was driving around the guy, Hall & Oates, Tommy Shaw. One time, I become friendly with Tommy Shaw, and he was a party man. He says, hey, here's a backstage pass to all access to get into any of my concerts anywhere. You can only get it from the record company. He says, don't worry, I'll get another one. Just put this on so you can go anywhere with me, anytime, anywhere. Nobody will stop you. Any building, anywhere. So I said, okay. So in New York City at the time, they had WNEW radio that was like, there was no internet. It was radio. And it was the biggest thing from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And once a week, they would have everything called the Shootout. And it was like a Jerry Lewis telethon. For 24 hours, for 7 days, they were live with famous people that would come in and play their music and be there and meet the people and be interviewed, take questions from people inside the restaurant that was open 24 hours. They always are open 24 hours because in New York City, it's a city that never sleeps. So Tommy Shaw's there. He's in there. He sees me, and we didn't come together, but he says to me, hey, I want to get out of the city. I got to go back to the studio where I work. So I said, yeah, you come with me. No problem. I'll park across the street downstairs. But at the end, when you're done, I'll be up here, and then we'll go downstairs. He goes, no, come with me. So I'm sitting like right next to him the whole time. He gets done with his radio piece. We don't go out the front door. We go through a elevator to another elevator up to the first floor again. We walk out, which is like, I guess, 50 yards from the doorway of the front of the place. Well, I didn't notice there was like 300 little girls in their teens waiting to see Tommy Shaw. So freaking Tommy Shaw grabs my shirt. He goes, let's go. And he goes, you gotta go. And I'm like, where are we going? He starts running across the street in the middle of high traffic. So now I'm going in between the cars to get onto the other side where we're running. These girls are stopping the traffic, and the girls are running after him. Not me, but they're after him. But I gotta go too because he doesn't know where the car is. I just keep directing him. That building, to the left, to the right, through the door. We get through the door, we jump in the car, and we're coming up. I'm in my own car now, right? And I got a vet. So I got the door closed, boom. I got the blackout windows, except just for the little spot in the front where you could see it. And sure enough, I'm coming up. And I come up, and the girls like moved out of the way when they seen this Corvette coming through, and I wasn't going to stop. I mean, I would have, but I was blowing the horn. Bah, bah, zoom, zoom, and it zoomed out of there. We got right the hell out. But you remember the girl Shaka Khan?
Yeah.
Everybody did Shaka Khan, Well, yeah. Shaka Khan's a pretty, very attractive African American lady. And back then she was very attractive, but she always was a little chunky, And over the years, the more famous she got, a little bit more chunky she got, but she had a voice. I mean, she was beautiful, beautiful face, great voice. So one day they tell me to go to this guy. His name was David Sonnenberg. He's a famous a New York lawyer, entertainment attorney, and his father was a big CBS attorney. So I drive in to give her a ride. I guess they were doing a cut of some music that was written for her and played. Not like today, it was cookie cutter. Actual guys came in and played real music, real machines. There was no Lynn drum machine. none of this crap. You had to actually have talent to be in the music business. And I picked up Shaka Khan. But it wasn't. It was her twin sister. She had a twin sister who had a body like you wouldn't believe. And at first I'm like, this got to be like some kind of makeup, you know? So she gets in and I'm like, I turn around and I'm looking at her and I go, you Shaka Khan? You lost so much weight. Oh my God. You look fantastic, you know? And I'm jacked to the gills because at that point I'm not a wrestler, but I'm playing bass in a band that when you have long hair, muscles, you play in a band. That's what, you know, a guitar player looked like. A bass player was a little bit more muscular. Drummer, it didn't matter if you were fat or not. As long as you were big, heavy, and hard, like the guy from Zeppelin, it wouldn't matter. So I'm looking at, she goes, oh no, I'm her sister, Chaka Boom. I was like, oh, holy shit, you know? WrestleMania 2, I was sitting with the original. They're both, one of them's dead. The guys from the Temptations. That was before your time, before my time, but I knew their music. And Eddie Kendricks is a singer, one of the big singers. And the guy, John Oates, you know, half of Hall & Oates, he has a cauliflower ear that he covers with his hair. But he had a haircut, and I could see his ear. It was cauliflower ear, and I was a wrestler in high school. So I said, oh, you got the cauliflower ear? He goes, yeah, I was, you know, state champion, 137 weight class. I was like, oh. And we were watching WrestleMania 2, and the main event was Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy. And they both looked at me, and I was like, what? And at the end of the day, they're getting ready to go back to the session, and they go, at the time, Dolph Lundgren had a movie called the Masters of the Universe, you know? So they used to kid around with me. Hey, Master of the Universe, you're a master, you know, you should be in that movie, Master of the Universe. You look just like them guys. You should, you know, look at this. You could do this. You could do this. If Mr. T could do this, you could do this. That's where that's where when I got signed to a record deal to Atlantic Records at the same time as Twisted Sister and another band from Canada. They were, the hell were they called? Before Triumph, another band, I forget. I'll think of the name. So, and then we found out that the singer had a management contract with John Bon Jovi's elder brother, who worked for Sony, and Tommy Mottola, who I know since I'm a kid, just from being around the studio. But they wouldn't let him out of the contract, so we got dropped from the label. And that's right around the time that those guys kept saying Masters of the Universe, Masters of the Universe. And then I met a guy named John Waite at the time, who was like a late 80s kind of, you know, hot singer for the 80s. Like, you know, a bunch of other groups had started to come out that were new wave. You know, they started to get away from Van Halen, started getting into, you know, Flock of Seagulls and all that shit. You know, but these were people that were coming in. And Jimmy Cliff, famous reggae artist, David Lee Roth. You know, I didn't know I was picking him up. I was told to go there and you'll know who you're going to pick up. So I walked through the door, and as I see him, I'm freaking out, but I don't say nothing. I walked right by and said, hey, Diamond Dave, brother, and I give him a high five. He was wearing his hat to the side, and his hair was bugged out. He was freezing outside, and he had on this, like, sleeveless zip-up, like, what do you call those, down sweaters?
Yeah.
With the spandex, just like he was on stage with the thing with sneakers, and he looked like fucking Diamond Dave, you know, he's fucking Diamond Dave. So then I turn around and goes, hey, are you the driver to Jersey? I'm like, yeah, but I'm a special driver. Just kidding around with him. He goes, yeah, brother, you are a special man, ain't you? We just got in the car, and he was like, hey, I don't want to sit back here. Can I come sit up in front with you? I'm like, yeah, come on up. So we were driving, me and him, back, you know, to New Jersey, driving with David Roth, listening to him. You know, he was smoking doob. You know, he liked to smoke cigarettes. He had a little flask of scotch. offered me a shot of scotch, boom, boom, passing it back, forth, boom. David Lee fucking Roth. I mean, and he's zabbity dabbity dab, doodly doo. He, he was nonstop entertainment. But a lot of the time, the guys that I drove around really, it wasn't because I was doing limo driving at the studio. They were more interested in security than they were a ride, because they could just hire a car to go pick them up. They owned a fleet of Cadillacs. And if you wanted to be a driver, and as I was a kid, I was learning the jobs from sweeping floors to how to stop the soda machine with beer the way they liked it, all the things. And you start to learn, everything. And as it was getting older, they would give me more things. They sent me to some security driving course, Then they sent me to Kung Fu, this and that, to learn how to be close to somebody, or because Aikido is something karate is what you do to keep someone away, but 99% of the time you're going to be close quarters and won't help you. So they set me to learn some basic skills, not to be a master of Aikido, but to learn some basic skills to hurt someone to get away, or to save your life if you had to, but desperate measures, I'm saying, not, the full dojo experience. He set me there. I learned like 8 tactics to use. That was it. And I mastered those, but then, I was driving. I went to the school, to drive backwards and how to spin the car around, drive forwards, kind of like the Secret Service would know how to do with the president, that kind of thing. But, but a much smaller scale. And so that was the job that I was learning. So sometimes they say, hey, go to the city, drop off tape. And the tapes were this big. And they were $200 a reel, the analog tapes. So I'd pick up tapes, drop off tapes. I was pretty much the guy that did everything. Then, I learned everything from how to cut the grass to how to do the pool, because they had a giant black marble swimming pool with jacuzzi with a redwood deck and a grill, and the side of a mountain with 6.5 acres of land with a 3-par hole. So I had to know how to do everything from how to shock the pool and close it, open it, to know how to put the tapes where they belong in the humidor, which was like a barn. It was like a big giant humidor, because it had to be, you know what I'm saying? So they had, instead of reverb that you hear today, which is solid state, they actually had their own reverb chambers in the ground. So you knew how to service them. You know what I'm saying? So I learned every job. And at this point, I had gotten up to running the evening shift when all the bosses, like my cousins and all the elders of the studios, would go to bed. And then you'd have the engineers in the rooms who were above me, but I was more equal to them on the outside of the rooms, like making sure the rest of the business was running full speed, top notch overnights. And sometimes I had to sleep there on one of the couches and go in one of the showers that they had at bathrooms, because I couldn't leave. I had to stay. And then I had to work the day shift. I mean, just the way it was. So, and then I got to meet, like Aretha Franklin and who else was there? Like I said, Donna Summer. Cher once was through there. Who the hell else? There was a lot of mostly R&B folks, though. Mostly R&B. A guy named Larry Fast. He was like the keyboard player for what's his name? The guy Genesis was 3 guys at the end, but Peter Gabriel. Larry Fast was a nice man. I knew him then, and he's a Facebook friend of mine. And he and so is Will Lee, the bass player from Letterman. These are nice people, but extremely talented, musicians. I mean, my goodness. I mean, and I always stayed friends with. With Facebook, it was so great because you got to be friends with people. And a guy named Khalees, he was Cool in the Gang. The main guy is the bass player, Cool, but his brother really was the backbone of the melody for that group and all their hits. He changed his name from Robert. Well, he just changed his name to his American name to Khalees. He kind, sweet, kind guy, extremely talented. He can play piano, saxophone, you name it. Very nice, down-to-earth guy. And like I said, Jimmy Cliff, I'd come in the morning, he'd be sitting in a hot tub with these giant stogies, with these big, just burn, big stein, giant stogies. Just those were good times, man. They were good times. But brother, when we got dropped from the label, man, I went down to Florida hearing that wrestling was hot. And I went down there to see what's hot about Florida and pro wrestling. And I met Steve Aoki, and kaboom! Within a year's time, I was booked as the Metal Maniac with the Superfly. Who the hell? Who does that?
You.
And I did. But you know what? I'm very disappointed. This television show goes intercontinental, and still those goofballs from any of those TVs haven't called me because they know they're going to have to pay for me to do this.
Right. Now you do have a Facebook page where fans can follow you. Do you want to tell us about where fans can look you up?
Yeah, just go to the Metal Maniac fan page. It's a fan page, and my personal stuff pops up on there. But if you go there, you're going to see my personal and my regular. And if I say in my personal, then you got to wait for me to post something on the Facebook, the fan page. It's just better just to go to the fan page. Then you can see, Jeff. Then you can see the Metal Maniac fan page, and they can look at different matches from years ago. And I have a whole bunch of other stuff that from Maryland Championship Wrestling, and God, I got videos from all over the place. And like I said, you can go on YouTube and don't look up at the top. No capitals, no spaces. 808, and then spell my name in small letters. METALMANIAC. Don't, as it's coming, if you write 808 metal, it's going to come up in 3 words. Don't do that. Keep typing. So anything that comes up with those 808 Metal Maniac together, no caps, no spaces, that's something that I actually said, okay, I like that. Put that there. Anything else on Google is crap. And if you're Googling this now, just know the crap that you're going to look at is not what I thought was something you might want to see. It's crap. Crap. But, brother, man, we're going to have to set aside some time one day to talk about international trips with guys like the Warlord and Barry Darso, who was in Demolition, and all these famous guys being the
I'm
only no
interviewing
name
Barry
on these
Darso,
trips.
by the way, very soon. I'm interviewing Barry Darso in the next week or so.
Good guy. I was only on the trip once with him, but I had met him other times. But let me say this, since you're going to talk to him, right? You're going to call. Let me say this much to you, because I just mentioned that trip to Beirut where we didn't get paid. And I guess that because I had spoke to Barry on the phone, and Jimmy said, don't give him the info, but whatever. If they did, they did. They didn't, they didn't. I don't know. But he on that trip, just in general, this one situation where we're in Beirut, right? And usually when there's local guys to work overseas, they always use the low guy on the totem pole because this is not for them. Okay. And I had been on several trips that it ended up that the local guys insisted that they wanted to be on the show, and these guys didn't speak English, and this is what they wanted, and they made me do the freaking whatever I had to do for, work a tag match, which I hated, and second, work with these guys who can't speak English, and you don't know if they're going to hurt you or not, and you just don't know.
You don't know
And
if it's real.
Right, yeah, and plus, you don't know if they understand the ending. You don't the finish. You don't know. So I'm going to have to go out there. Well, this trip, at this point, I had been on many trips where at this point I knew better. So I got up in front of the room. This is all right. I got it. You got to let me come back and tell you overseas trips, but I'm not going to give the whole thing away. All I'm going to say is where we went, we were told we were going, and that's not where we were going. We were going elsewhere. I'll say it like this. We went to Israel, but we ended up somewhere else we weren't supposed to be, and we were said Israel. We flew into Israel, but that's not where we were going to wrestle. I'll just say that. That's the companion for that. But meantime, so we're on this trip, and in this trip, that story about Iron Sheik with them firing up the beach, and we're all running. Me and Bagdar's all running away. He'll tell you about that. But we're at the show. It's the last night, and these two kids want to wrestle, and they're insisting that we wrestle. And it's going to be me and somebody else, and I don't want to do it. And I was the low man on the totem pole, but coming from the music business, I understood that what was right and what wasn't, and this wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to do it. So I got up in front of everybody and I said, guys, please understand. I love you all and I respect you all, but I've been on these trips before. I've been stuck working these guys, and I'm not going out there to do it. I said, all of you guys in here are the biggest, baddest, strongest guys in the world. And you're going to send me out there with them two guys, and I don't know what's going to go on. Come on. Somebody, two of you have to step up because it ain't going to be me. I'm sorry. I said, forgive me. I'm sorry. I sat right back down next to Jim, and I didn't say a fucking word. So Barry goes, I'll fucking do it. And then Warlow goes, fuck it, I'll do it too. Okay. I'm like, oh, great. Perfect. Now everybody's watching. It's the last night. Everybody's there watching. And the two guys come to the ring. Oh, no, those two go out because they're the heels. And everybody's booing. And there was a guy in the audience, I guess, who was their trainer of these other two guys that had a pretty big name in local. And over there, they call it catch. They don't call it pro wrestling. They call it catch, like in Europe. So those two are already pissed off that they got to go out there and fucking work with these two guys who are like, I don't know, 5'6", 180. So they're already pissed off. And, they're friends with Hulk Hogan, especially Big Terry. So they come out to Hulk Hogan's, music, not to American music, but to the original Hulk Hogan, I'm a Survivor, the whole thing. And they get carried to the ring by all these guys. Well, that set Barry and Terry off to no end at this point. They start, and Barry boom, runs over, boom, 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 shoots the guy off. I don't know what he says, but the guy, Barry said to me, I told him duck the clothesline. Who are you telling? The guy you never met who doesn't speak English? But he tries, but he doesn't really duck the clothesline, this kid. Well, he does, but Barry's not having it. He's pissed. Barry clotheslines this fucking guy. Boom! And I mean, the guy put his head down, but tried to duck it. And I mean, Barry just boom! And the guy's out. And I guess the Warlord jumped in there, picked the guy up, and threw him into the people. Then the next thing you know, now Barry might remember it, the hot spot backwards, but you get the gist. Then the next thing you know, Warlord's still in there. The kid gets in with him, drop kicks the Warlord. He just stands there, no sells him. He drop kicks him again, no sells him. He drop kicks him again, no sells him. And he's jumping up and down like a kid. You son of a bitch, why aren't you selling for me? And he starts wham, 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 picks him up, throws him the hell into the 5th row. And the coach jumps in. Now, they knew they had to sell for the coach. Because if they didn't sell for the coach, none of us were getting out of the building alive. And we're in Beirut. So the old man starts throwing punches. And fucking Warlord and Brother Barry, they're registering. They're registering. The old man picked one of them up, slammed him. He did everything. Boom, boom, covered him. One of the kids who was still awake came in and he put him on top, and they covered him like that. And it was done on the spot. They had to do that because they knew, holy shit, this guy's the only one that's got heat. They got to sell for him. And brother, I was so glad. I was so glad that I did not have to work that match. And thanks to Barry and the Warlord Terry, thank goodness they did it. They did it. I mean, they did it. And it was just, I was so happy.
And none of you were paid.
No, that was a trip where Shiki and they had to go down, and then the Lebanese police, we actually, we tried, we were at this beautiful hotel, and we were there for a week waiting for the other sets of guys to come in. So it was me, Jimmy, Sheik, Nikolai, Iceman Parsons. So we were all hanging out. I got to meet Iceman, got to hang out, start bullshit, talking, and we had a lot of fun hanging out together, but we couldn't smoke anything because, over there, one joint, 7 years in prison, so the UN guys, when they showed up and started to, look for Jimmy, and we found our room, and then Jimmy asked them, hey, brother, they said, look, we did it for you, but, don't get caught, So they brought this big giant black African ass about the size of my fist, big giant rock. And they showed us how to roll it in like a bugle and all that. The 3 spokes and a Marlboro and a thing. We're passing around. So we're at this hotel, and we go to find chicken. We wanted to go find chicken, and we saw some chickens on a grill, so we knew that they were not mystery meat. And we didn't want to get any of their water in our bodies. We were drinking Pepsi. There was no bottled water. It was just Pepsi or their water. So we didn't eat any of their green salads. You know what I mean? Because you couldn't. They were using their water.
Right.
So we saw chickens, and we all went to get chickens, and we came back, and the UN guys were there, and the Syrian police were there, military. And it turns out that while we were gone, the owner of the hotel got shot by somebody by a machine gun or something, and they wouldn't let us back into the hotel for till nighttime, till it was cleared up. And finally, they moved us from that hotel because we were scared to death to go in there. Well, they sent it to this hotel that half of the hotel was underwater. It was literally half the hotel had 2 inches of water in the whole first floor. And it's just like crazy. And it's filthy, dirty, pool. None of us went in. And that's where we held on to the chunk of hash. And we were all sitting around at night smoking it. And we were sitting on the beach. And that's where Jimmy and everybody were all sitting and shaking. And then the power starts going up. And we're running, and fucking Jimmy's there. Yeah, so that's the night. And Barry can tell you about that night in the ring, how it went back and forth, how they didn't want to go out and they were pissed off already, and then they'd come out and getting carried to their friends' music. Oh! And they said they can't sell to these fucking guys. They sold nothing, and they threw them fuckers into the 5th row. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating it, folks. There's 8 feet from the ring was these laugh chairs, and the Warlord picked the guy up over his freaking head and just ran across the ring and threw the guy into the people. No shit. Guy was down, never came back. The other guy came back.
Crazy.
What a business. What a business, brother. But that's all right. Don't worry about it. We are going to talk about when you get the time and you have a spot, you let me know, because I have trips I can tell you about that were to Amman, Jordan, to Beirut. Like I said, I can tell you about trips to, all these different countries, whether it be military bases that we went to, everything from Guam, Okinawa, to mainland Japan, 5 on mainland Japan, 2 in South Korea, and, Italy and Germany, and what we did outside of, how me and Greg Valentine went on an American, we're on an American van, and we're driving down the Autobahn, and we drive over to Holland, and we get the gimmick, and we come back, and our next stop is Turkey. Well, we're not throwing the stuff out. We're not taking it with us. And we just mass smoked for 2 days. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff that we're going to talk about, but we'll do that on another day when you have it. But all I want to say is thanks for having me on again. And you are watching Hannibal TV. And if you got a TV and you need a voice, this is where you go. Call Hannibal and give him this 20% booking fee. Wow. That is monetization, brother. Wow. Whoa.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.